Unity. Will there be unity under a Trump administration? House Speaker Paul Ryan said he thinks so. Watch.
I think what Donald Trump just pulled off is an enormous political feat. It's an enormous feat in that he heard those voices that were out there that other people weren't hearing, and he just earned a mandate. And we now just have that unified Republican government.
Joining me right now is former RNC chairman and former Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour. Governor, great to see you.
Oh, thank you, Maria. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for spending the time. So Donald Trump and Governor Mike Pence meeting Paul Ryan today. Interesting to hear him talk like that now. He didn't do much to help Trump win. What do you think about this?
Well, look, he knows that Donald Trump wants to get things done. Paul Ryan wants to get things done. He's a doer. He wants to make a difference. He's very policy-oriented, but knows that those policies can't be put into effect unless they get passed by Congress, signed by the president. So sure, he wants to work with Donald Trump. So does Mitch McConnell. And when he said we have a united majority in the Republican Party, we have the president, majority of the Senate, majority of the House, a majority of the governors, a majority of the state legislature. And we will, thank goodness, in the next year have a majority of the Supreme Court will be Republican appointees. I think those things are very important to a lot of the people that said, well, maybe Trump is not exactly what I was looking for, but I'm going to vote for him. And you saw a lot of that in October of Republicans who were very unsure, maybe had decided not to vote for Trump, came around. And I think it made all the difference.
Governor, I would totally agree with you. I mean, if you recall, when the President Obama went in his first 2 years, he had all three lined up, and they pushed as much through as they can. Paul Ryan will fall into place and try to get things done. What would be your recommendation, Governor, of the couple things? I mean, at the end of the day, there's only a couple big things you can really get done in the first year. What would be those few things you think they should prioritize?
Well, clearly our tax system hurts us economically, both foreign and domestic. We need tax reform both for individuals and for businesses. I think there's a lot of agreement among Republicans about that. I think there are even a good number of Democrats that know we need a territorial tax system so we don't tax our businesses, international businesses, twice, resulting in the highest, corporate income tax in the world. I think we need to reform our immigration system. Trump maybe has some different ideas from other Republicans about doing that. There's certainly not unity about everything, every single thing. But I believe that we need to, and therefore will make a real effort to, reform our system because it's broken right now. We've got a bad system. Finally, I think there's going to be a real hard look at infrastructure. And when I say that, I mean more than highways and bridges. A lot of people don't think about, they think of Barack Obama talking about shovel-ready jobs. Well, look, infrastructure is not about short-term jobs, though they're positive. This is about the competitiveness of the American economy in the world because logistics is an enormous part of our economic advantage, and we don't want to lose it.
Yep, no question. I mean, I couldn't align with you more on those three things. Tax reform, infrastructure, and immigration would be great if we could figure out how to do it in some ways bipartisan. The more people that vote for it would be great. Well, and all three of those things line up in a bipartisan way.
What about health care? What about health care, Governor? I mean, that's a major issue. Trump is talking about repealing and replacing Obamacare. Premiums are increasing. We know that we're going to see huge spikes next year, and major insurers are opting out of the plan. So is Obamacare in critical condition under a Trump administration? How should it change?
Well, it should absolutely change. It's moving toward a government-run health care system. And what they've done is failed. It's failed on many, many levels. But, Maria, about 80% of the people that got health care under Obamacare got put on Medicaid. We could have put people on Medicaid without screwing up the health insurance business like we've had, and which has driven up costs, driven down access to care. Of course, that needs to be done. There are a lot of things that need to be done. Trying to put it down to 3 or 4, you're going to leave out some things that are important. But you're going to see real efforts here at reform and changing some of the things like the enormous regulatory burden the red tape that's been put on our economy by the Obama administration in the last 8 years. The good news is a lot of that can be done by executive action because Obama put it in place by executive action. Congress would have never passed a lot of this.
Governor Barbour, it's Dagan McDowell. Do people realize, though, in terms of the daylight between President Obama's policies and maybe what some of Trump plans to do? President Obama was deporting people in record numbers annually during his first 4 years in office. And then also he signed into law a $1/3 of $1 trillion highway spending bill at the end of last year. Is that good or bad?
Well, look, his immigration policy flip-flopped, you know, like a fish thrown out on the sidewalk. It was back and forth, and they would have big spurts of deportation, then no deportation, then efforts to try to change the law without getting Congress to pass anything but to change the law through executive action. I don't think you'll see that with Trump. I do think that Trump's immigration policy adopted by Congress will be not as harsh as what he sometimes talked about. And I think you could see that during the campaign, the idea of that we ought to have a way for people who came illegally to confess that they came illegally, to pay a fine, to get put on probation. But the idea of deporting 11 million people, we ought to treat them just like anybody else that committed a nonviolent crime. If while they've been here, they've worked, they've paid their taxes, they hadn't committed any other crimes. You're going to see some modulation of all of this because, look, I ran a political office for Ronald Reagan in the White House for a couple of years. Ronald Reagan compromised on everything. And he was willing to, because he wasn't going to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I expect the same thing from Donald Trump. After all, he is the guy that wrote the art of the deal. And I think he knows that he can't just get Congress to do everything exactly like he wants. And I think he'll be willing to work to try to get good results and not let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
All right. Sounds like you're expecting success from this administration in terms of getting things done.
The country can't stand for him not to be successful.
Yeah. Governor, good to see you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Maria.
Haley Barbour there. Coming up.